Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. Now I'm entitled this one, This Is Not Our Rest. Going to the spirit that the elect are going to be in these last days of this current empire, which is the empire of Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, also known as the devil, which that word devil means deceiver, going into how the self-proclaimed white man would deceive the entire planet Earth to believe that they're the true chosen people that the Bible speaks of. But like it says in Isaiah chapter 2, when the true chosen people of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai are in the land of Israel, the earth would be at peace. There would be no more wars. All the nations would go up to the true Israelites, which today would be the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Not no tiny caps, small hats, not no Balfour Declaration people, but ultimately the true chosen people, once they get in the rulership position, starting with our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai and the 144,000 and the 1/3, when that governing body gets put in the right position, which is ultimately being the rulers of the planet Earth, the world would be at peace. But right now, since the true chosen people aren't in rulership, like it says in Proverbs chapter 29, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Everybody's mourning right now, from the people, the animals, the beasts of the field, the fowls of the air, the trees, the water, everything, because the earth is a living organism. And the only ones who want to stay in this filth ultimately are the 2/3 of our people. But to the rest of our people, those who are predestined to get this truth and to receive salvation, which consists of the 144,000 and 1/3, they're going to be in the spirit of wanting to get the hell up out of here, because they know how the earth is supposed to be ran. It's supposed to be ran with the laws, statutes, commandments at the forefront. But right now, it's being ran in the complete opposite. The do as thou wilt spirit. You don't have to hold yourself accountable for nothing. And what you see is the result of that. It's complete chaos. Everything's out of order. You got the women ruling over the men. You got these heathens ruling over the Israelites. You got moles running around. You got polluted water, chemtrails being sprayed upon you. Only somebody who likes to live in filth, which are ultimately these these heathen nations, these self-proclaimed white people, these so-called Chinese, they're the only ones who wants to stay in this, because really this is as good as it gets for them. So this is Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. So it's telling us are the hopeful elect, to not, in a sense, to, like you got these other Israelite camps saying, oh, that's talking about, getting on a boat, getting on a plane and going to a far off island. But like the scripture says in Amos chapter 5, the judgments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, those who are destined to get put to death and those who are destined to get salvation, it don't matter where you go, but that's when ultimately the spirit, which is ultimately going into detaching yourself spiritually mentally, not having your hopes set upon this wicked place because you know ultimately what the end of it is, which is thermonuclear destruction over here in America, Babylon the Great. But along with the entire planet Earth, we're about to come into a time like no other, like it says in Daniel chapter 12, the time of Jacob's trouble. So it don't matter where you go, because ultimately the judgments of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai are going to go throughout the four corners of the earth. And the only ones who are going to be departing and arising from this wicked and corrupted place, spiritually, mentally, and even in a sense physically, not being too invested in this kingdom and in this system, are going to be the hopeful elect, the remnant. The rest of our people, they're going to stay in this mindset of they think that it's going to continue forever. America's never going to be destroyed. But they're about to find out very soon that attaching yourself to this kingdom is going to lead to destruction. It's going to lead to the 2/3 taking the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip, and it's going to lead to them to get those thermonuclear missiles, the second death, the lake of fire. This is Hebrews 13 and verse 14. For here we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. So this city, this current kingdom of Esau, Edom, America, Babylon the Great, we know that this isn't the end all be all. We know how the earth is supposed to be ran. It's supposed to be ran in righteousness, but right now it's not being ran in righteousness. It's being ran in complete wickedness. Everything's defiled here, from the food, water, the mindset of these people, just wicked as all hell. But the one to come, that's the kingdom of heaven. That's going to be where the laws, statutes, commandments are going to be at the forefront, where we're finally going to have rest. Because, you got Jake trying to find rest here and be comfortable here. But ultimately, we know that we're not here to be comfortable. We're not here to just chill and kick back. No, we're here for our captivity because we sinned against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And the only ones who are acknowledging that are the elect. The rest of our people, they're going to try to make this their rest. They're kind of try to establish themselves here. But it's going to lead them to get put to death because they have that mindset that nothing's ever going to happen, that this kingdom is going to continue as it's been. But it's evident that the end of this current empire being ran by the self-proclaimed white man, the end of America, which is Babylon the Great, it's at its end. It's evident, but only the hopeful elect can see that. The rest of the 2/3 of these Israelites, they don't see that. And even these heathens, these elite banking families, they have that mindset that, okay, America's going to be destroyed because they know the scriptures, they know the prophecies, but their mindset is that, okay, once this current system falls down and we bring in that new digital system, we're going to continue to rule, but they're mistaken as well. So this is Psalms 49 and verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. So that's the mindset of not just the elite banking families that think that, okay, we're going to destroy this current system and bring in a new digital technocracy. No, that's the mindset that the 2/3 of our people, of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the true Israelites, have as well. They have that mindset that America is going to continue on forever. Nothing's ever going to happen. Everything is going to continue as it's been. But they're sadly mistaken, because we're at the end of America, Babylon the Great. We're at the end of this current kingdom, the white man, Esau, Edom's kingdom, which Yahweh Bashem Yahushai set his bounds that he cannot pass. But yet our people are still in that mindset of, being comfortable, chilling, But the scriptures tell us otherwise, like it says right here, 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and verse 40. O my people, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be as pilgrims upon earth. And we're getting ready for that battle, that time like no other. Jacob's trouble, all hell breaking loose. You know what these Christians love to call the Great Tribulation. No, the Great Tribulation is Jacob's trouble, is World War III. It's the mass implementation of the MOTB, also known as the hour of temptation. And in that time, that's when we know that we're going to have to walk away from everything we know, you know, our houses, jobs, apartments, you know, whatever assets that you had in this world. We know that we're going to have to walk away from it, because the only way to keep that or to get it back is by taking that RFID microchip, which is the MOTB. But that's about to come upon the whole world, and those who weren't pilgrims, who were settlers, which is majority of our people and these heathens, they're going to take that MOTB. But the elect, those have been in that spirit of wanting to get the hell up out of here, you know, hastening the day, you know, counting down when Yahushua comes back and makes his second coming and delivers the elect. That's the spirit that the elect are in, you know, being pilgrims upon the earth. Verse 41, he that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. So it's nothing wrong, you know, with you know, having things in this world, like it says, use the world but don't abuse it. But we don't attach ourselves from these worldly possessions like these people in the world do, you know, attaching themselves to their home, you know, their car, whatever worldly possessions they got. That's the mindset that our people are in, you know, attaching themselves to their jobs, their careers, you know, a business. There's nothing wrong with having a business, but we know when that RFID microchip gets made presented, we're going to have to walk away from all this, because we know that this is the end all be all. Verse 42, he that occupy merchandise as he that had no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that should not dwell therein. You know, so even brothers in the truth, sisters in the truth, they may have, you know, some, you know, assets in the stock market, you know, stock market portfolio, you know, businesses, you know, they may pay them well off. But in the times we're coming into, we're going to have to walk away from all this, you know, whatever businesses that we got, you know, maybe a high paying career, 6-figure job, you know, gold, silver, because once Esau, Edom flips that system, when he makes it digital, all these assets that these people have put their baskets in, 401ks, pensions, the stock market, you know, gold and silver, Bitcoin, crypto coin, that's all about to be resetted in what everybody calls the Great Reset. So all these people that think that they're going to get a return on this worldly investment, they're about to be confounded. But those who have been storing up those treasures in heaven, like it says in Matthew chapter 6, those are the true treasures that are worth something comparing to these worldly possessions. Verse 43, he that soweth as if he should not reap, so also he that planteth the vineyard as he that should not gather the grapes. Going into the same point, you know, we know that we're not going to be here for no 1,000 years, no hundreds of years, because it's evident that the end of this man's empire is here. It's at its end. It's knocking at the door. You got so much different events. World War III, basically at its beginning stages, the U.S. versus Iran. You have all these countries at war. You have the Strait of Hormuz being closed for the U.S. and for Israel. You got Russia no longer exporting gas starting tomorrow, April 1st, which is going to lead to the furthering of the collapse of the system, the collapse of the U.S. dollar, the collapse of this economy. Because if there's no gas flowing, no oil flowing like the world is accustomed to, that leads to economic distress. That leads to people panicking, oh shit, we're not getting the same amount of goods. It's going to lead to famine. It's going to lead to all hell breaking loose. Verse 44, they that marry as they that should not, they shall get no children. And they that marry not as the widowers. So you got people in that Matthew chapter 24 spirit, eating, drinking, giving into marriage, planning out their children and their great grandchildren, thinking about, I'm going to send my kid to this college 10 years from now. Oh, my great grandchildren already set up a fund, so when they're 18, they can access and be straight. That's the mindset that majority of these people are in. This is verse 45. And therefore they that labor in vain. So all these people rushing to get to work, bugging out about a promotion and man, I need to work hard and impress the white man Esau Edom so I could get this promotion, so I could get this bigger house, so I could get this bigger a better exotic car, this Mercedes, this is Tesla, just laboring in vain. Like it says in the scriptures, give me poverty nor riches, give me food convenient for me. And that's the spirit that the remnant are in, as long as they're able to get their daily bread, and Yahweh Bashim Shah provides the basic necessities to be able to do this work. That's more than enough. Verse 46, for strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses and take their children captives. For in their captivity and famine shall they get children. And that's what's about to happen very soon. When all hell breaks loose, when all these different armies, the U.S. armies, the reserves, all these troops that are stationed here, once that World War III, goes full blast, they're all going to get sent over there to the Middle East. So who's going to take their spots? The Gestapo troops, these foreign troops, the UN troops. And they don't have love for Americans, for these Babylonians. No, they hate these Americans. So in that day, they're going to be like, oh shit, this how y'all been living? Big ass house, a 3-story house, penthouses, cars, TVs, PS5s, J's, cereal boxes everywhere, living lavishly. That's how these Americans live. This is the country known as, the greatest consumer country. Consume. Never be happy with what you got. So when these UN troops, these foreign troops see how these Americans been living like, they're going to take that. They're going to take that PS5. They're going to take those J's and put them on and chill. While all these people are getting sent to these detention centers and these FEMA camps. Verse 47, and they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons. So Jake, and really all, these 2/3 and these heathens, they're in that spirit of keeping up with the Joneses, decking out their houses, putting TVs in their garage, building up their front yard garden, all this vanity. And ultimately, Yahweh Bashim Shai sees that, how they're in the spirit of just really laboring for nothing. Like it says right here, verse 48, the more I will be angry with them for their sins, said the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai. So the Lord is mad with these 2/3 and these heathens. How they don't ever think that all this calamity is ever going to come upon them. But like it says, when they shall say peace and safety, that's the spirit that majority of these people are in. That peace and safety spirit. This is Philippians 3 and verse 17, because this is where we're looking forward to, it is getting the hell up out of here. We know that this is our rest. We're in these chains of darkness, these sinful bodies. Philippians 3 and verse 17 in the NLT, dear brothers and sisters, pattern your lives after mine and learn from those who follow our example. Verse 18, for I have told you often before, and I say it again with tears in my eyes, that there are many whose conduct shows they are really enemies of the cross of Hamashiach Yahushai. Majority of the world, they're antichrist. They're anti-Hamashiach. If they really knew what the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is, they would really be against it, and they are. You tell our people the truth. You tell them what the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is, which is ultimately to destroy this kingdom, to deliver the elect, to set up the throne of David, to set up the nation of Israel as the rulers of the planet Earth. They get mad at that because then they got to hold themselves accountable. They got to hold themselves to the standard of the law, statute, commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and they don't want to do that. They want to continue to live in this filth, in this corrupted system, Babylon, the Great America, and it shows because they're not in the spirit of sighing and crying, wanting to get the hell up out of here. No, they're in a house of folly. They're in a house of mirth. Verse 19, they are headed for destruction. Their God is their appetite. They brag about shameful things, and they think only about this life here on earth. That's all they think about, the 2/3. But like it says in Micah chapter 2 and verse 10, it's gonna lead them to a sword destruction. Because you be around your coworkers or, maybe people at the grocery store, you walk by and you hear their conversation. All they talk about is vanity. They're talking about March Madness, the LeBron James, what vacation they're going on next, their job, the raise they're about to get. Oh, I'm about to get a 50-cent raise. That's all they brag about. And then, you hear the filthy conversations that they have too, talking about adultery, talking about how they're going to barbecue a whole pig and, all these abominations that they're, talking about. In verse 20, for we are citizens of heaven, where the Lord Yahushua Mashiach lives, and we are eagerly waiting for him to return as our Savior. Only the remnant are waiting for that, because we want to get the hell up out of this captivity. Verse 21, he will take our weak mortal bodies and change them into glorious bodies like his own, using the same power with which he will bring everything under his control. And then, that's what we want is the new bodies, the celestial bodies with the law, statute, commandments written in our inward parts. But only the remnant, the elect, want that, because we know that we live in this corrupted and wicked world. We live in these chains of darkness, subject to sin. And even if, we try to the best of our ability, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai said our righteousness is as filthy rags. The only reason why we have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, this truth, this wisdom, is by the mercy and the grace of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. No, but the 2/3 of our people, they don't acknowledge that. They want to continue in this filth. They want to continue to just go to hell off for eternity. But the Lord's not going to allow that. He's about to put a stop to this kingdom being ran by the self-proclaimed white man. He's about to put a stop to this wickedness just rampant loose. And ultimately, he's about to set up the nation of Israel, starting with Yahushai, the 144,000, and the 1/3 that is right around the corner. When the destruction of America, which is Babylon the Great, takes place, there's going to be caused by the intercontinental ballistic missiles to end the Third World War. And then while that's taking place, the what the ignorant call the rapture, which is when the elect get beamed up by the chariot of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and the chariots that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. That's when the kingdom of heaven begins. When the elect get changed into the new bodies with the law, statute, commandments written in their inward parts. That's when we're finally going to have rest, Lord willing, we be a part of that number, and that crowning ceremony takes place. And then after that, like it says, New Jerusalem shall come down, and start cleaning this place up. Start cleaning this place up from all this filth that the self-proclaimed white man has spread throughout the four corners of the earth. And that's knocking at the door. That's right around the corner. But that's pretty much the point. I pray that this was edifying unto the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. who I learned this truth from and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect.